Hey there, are you a beginner pianist and you want to learn how to play beautiful jazz chords on any tune? Well, unfortunately, many beginner students don't learn an exercise to mastering their jazz chords, and so they're oftentimes left confused when they open up a book and they see a beautiful chord and they don't know how to play it. So in today's lesson, I'm going to teach you an exercise that I wish my first jazz teacher had taught me. This is one of the best exercises to not only learning the most important chords in jazz, but learning how to play them in all 12 keys. So the next time you open up a book and you want to play a jazz tune, you can easily play the chords. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, the most important progression in jazz is called the 2-5-1 chord progression, and it is used in literally every jazz standard. So if you learn this progression in all 12 keys, you can pretty much play any jazz tune. So a really quick explanation, the 2-5-1, if you're in the key of C major, is a chord built on the D, the second note of the C major scale, the G, which is the fifth note of the scale, and the 1, which is the C. So 2-5-1. Now I want to quickly show you a few tunes that use this progression so you can see exactly how popular it is. So here's Blue Moon. Blue Moon. That's the 2-5-1, 2-5-1. Or Cheek to Cheek, Heaven. I'm in heaven. There's the 2-5-1, right? D, G. Or The Way You Look Tonight, someday when I'm awfully low. There it is again, someday 2-5. So again, it's the most important progression in jazz, and if you can play it in all 12 keys, then you can basically play 99% of jazz tunes. Now, playing a 2-5-1 by itself is not the hardest thing to play, but if you're a beginner pianist and you try practicing this in all 12 keys, it can be very overwhelming. So in just a few minutes, I'm going to teach you this great exercise to master it in all 12 keys, but before we do that, let's quickly go over the 2-5-1 chords. So the 2 chord in the key of C major is when you go to the second note of the C major scale and you skip thirds and you end up with a chord called a D minor 7 chord, okay? It uses all of the notes from the C major scale, okay? The 5 chord has the same idea. So if we're in the key of C major, the 5 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is built on the G. So we skip thirds and we have a chord called a G7 chord. Okay? The 1 chord is the same concept. We build a chord on the 1. In this case, it's this key of C major. So we build thirds, and we have a chord called a C major 7 chord. Okay? So once again, 2, 5, 1. But there's a little problem here if you're a beginner student. Playing a 2-5-1 in the key of C is not too hard, but then if you're going to practice this in a different key like F, well, guess what? You have entirely different chords. And then if you were to do this in the key of B flat, well, now you have totally different chords for your 2-5-1. And so this is what makes it very overwhelming. If you're a beginner student, it can be very hard to learn all your 2-5-1s in all 12 keys because these chords are really big and you're constantly jumping around the piano. So what's the solution? Well, that's what I'm going to tell you next. But before we do this, if you're enjoying this lesson, please hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more videos just like this. All right, so step number 1 to this exercise is to first simplify your chords. Because remember, these are really big chords. They're hard to maneuver around the piano. And so one of the best notes to take out of your chord is the 5th of the chord, the A, right? So go ahead and play each of your chords, but take the 5th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, take the 5th out of each chord. So on the G7, you're going to take the D out. And then on the C major 7, you're going to take the G out. These are called chord shells, and they're basically partial chords, meaning you're taking one note out of the chord. And by the way, there are different types of chord shells. You could play chord shells like this, or you can even play it like this. But the most common is to play the root, the 3rd, and the 7th. Step number 2 is to invert your chords. And the way this works is that you take your chord, like a D minor 7, and you take these 2 notes on the top, the 3rd and the 7th of the chord, and you flip them or you invert them. So we're going to take that 3rd and we're going to put it on the top up here. Okay? So this is an alternate way of playing your D minor 7 chord. If you place the 3rd on the bottom, we call this an A voicing. And if you put the 7th on the bottom, we call this a B voicing. And you can do this for your other chords. So if you go to a G7 chord, you can play the 3rd and the 7th on the bottom. We call this an A voicing, or you can invert it and you can put the B on the top and put the 7th on the bottom, and this is called a B voicing. And same with the C major 7 chord. If I play the 3rd and the 7th like this is called an A voicing. And if I put the 7th on the bottom, this is called a B voicing. And there's actually a name for the 3rd and the 7th of the chord. We call these guide tones. And they're the most important notes in a chord, especially if you're a beginner jazz pianist. All right, now that you understand the 2-5-1 chord progression, chord shells, and guide tones, you're now ready to learn the exercise. But before we do this, if you want to do a deep dive on chord shells and guide tones and your 2-5-1 chord progression, we have some great courses on these topics, including our chord shells and guide tones exercises course and our 2-5-1 7th chord exercises course. I'll put a link to those below. All right, you're ready to learn the exercise, and I'm so excited for you because once you learn this exercise, you truly will be able to play 99% of the chords in jazz tunes. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take those chord shells that you just learned and we're gonna play them on the 2-5-1 in C, and then I'm gonna show you this amazing little system that allows you to play the same thing in a new key down a whole step. So it's really easy to play. Okay, the 2-5-1 using chord shells, if we start on a D minor 7, we're gonna play it like this, okay? Root, 3rd, and 7th. And then on the 5 chord, the G, we're gonna use a B voicing for the G7 chord. So we're gonna move this C down to the B, and now we have our G7 chord. And then on the C chord, we're gonna play an A voicing. So we're gonna move this F down to an E, and we have our C major 7 chord, okay? So what we just did is we started on our 2 chord, but instead of going to our 5 chord like this, I'm just gonna use the inverted 3rd and 7th. And what this does is it creates really nice voice leading. Imagine these are like voices in a choir, and they're going to the next chord. Good voice leading is where the notes of the next chord are generally not too far away. And so this is a great way to start playing jazz as a beginner, is playing these little chord shells and using each of your voicings to create nice voice leading. Now this is called an ABA form because you're starting on an A voicing, then going to a B voicing, and then back to an A voicing. But you can actually flip this and you could start on a B voicing and then go A and then B. So for example, on the D minor 7 chord, you could start on the B voicing like this, and then on the G chord, you could go to the A voicing, or if that's a little bit easier to see, and then you can go to your C chord to a B voicing. So you could go B, A, B. So this is obviously a much easier way of playing the 2-5-1 if you're more on the beginner side. Because remember, if you play 2-5-1s using your root position chords, it requires a lot of jumping, and these are very big chords. But if you use these chord shells, look how much easier it is to play. 2-5-1 or 2-5-1. But we don't want to just play these in one key. If you really want to play jazz piano, you need to be able to play this in all 12 keys. And this takes us to step number 4, which is the exercise. I'm so excited to teach this to you. So what you're going to do is you're going to play your 2-5-1 in all 12 keys, but the way you're going to move through the keys is by way of whole steps. So we're going to start by playing our 2-5-1 in the key of C major, and then we're going to go down a whole step. And we're going to play the 2-5-1 in B flat major. So we're in the key of B flat major. And then we're going to go down another whole step and play the 2-5-1 in the key of A flat. And then we're going to do it in the key of G flat. And then the key of E. And then finally in the key of D. And if you were to continue past D, then you'll end up back where you started. So we basically just hit 6 different keys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, where we've practiced the 2-5-1. But guess what? There are 6 more keys to practice. So after you do those 6 keys, then we're going to go to the key of D flat, and we're going to go whole steps down. So D flat, then we're going to go B, and then we're going to go key of A major, key of G major, key of F major, and then finally key of E flat major. All right, you are officially ready for the exercise. You've learned all of the theory, you've learned the system, now it's just a matter of applying the ideas. So we're going to start with our 2-5-1 in the key of C major, and we're going to be using our ABA form. So on the 2 chord, D minor 7, we're going to use the 3rd and the 7th, which is an A voicing. Now for this exercise, I like to bring the right hand up the octave, so it's a little bit of a brighter sound. And let's play our 2-5-1 in the key of C. Okay, here we go. 2, 5, 1. Okay, now here's the cool part. This is really the crux of this exercise. Now we're going to play a 2-5-1 in the key of B flat. Well, what's the 2 chord in the key of B flat? It's a C minor 7. Okay? And so we're actually already on the 2 of B flat. So all I have to do is make this a C minor 7 chord. So to make this a C minor 7 chord, all I have to do is take these 2 notes here and make them flat. So E flat, B flat, and guess what? We have a C minor 7 chord, okay? And from here, we continue our pattern. So we go 2, what's the 5 chord in B flat? It's an F, 5. Okay? And once again, look at the top note. All we have to do is move that top note down, and we have our 5 chord. That's an F7. And then for the 1 chord, it's right there. Okay? All I had to do was move this down to the D, and I have my 1 chord, which is a B flat major 7. So this exercise is actually incredibly easy because it follows a very predictable pattern. Once you start on the 2 chord in C, top note goes down a half step, this note goes down a half step, and we're on our C. Now we go C minor 7, both notes move down a half step, top note moves down a half step, bottom note moves down a half step, and we're in our next chord. And so you can basically continue this pattern down the piano. So if I'm playing my 2-5-1 in the key of A flat, well, I'm already on my B flat, so we make this a minor 7 chord. That's a 2. Then the 5 is E flat, top note comes down. The 1 is A flat, and the bottom note moves down, and we're on our A flat major 7 chord. Isn't that so simple? I love this exercise because you can quickly move through lots of different keys. Then we do our 2-5-1 in the key of G flat. So we're on the 2 chord. Let's lower these 2. That's an A flat minor 7. 2, 5. That's the 5. And then the 1 is a G flat major 7. Okay? Then we do 2-5-1 in the key of E major. So we have 2, 5, 1. Is that making sense? And while you're playing these, it's very helpful if you think of the names of these chords. Don't just play the pattern. It's really helpful to think, okay, this is an F sharp minor 7, this is a B 7 or B dominant 7, and this is an E major 7. And then the same thing, E minor 7, A 7 or A dominant 7, and then our 1 chord, which is a D major 7. Now, once you get back to D, you're basically back to where you started. So at this point, you're going to shift the exercise, and you're going to start on the 2-5-1 in D flat, okay? So how do we do this? We're going to go to the 2 chord, which is an E flat minor 7, and guess what? Those 2 notes from the D major 7 chord are actually the 3rd and 7th of an E flat minor 7. Isn't that cool? And so what I like to do for this exercise, I just shift it up and I start it here. Okay? So we have 2, 5, that's an A flat 7, 1, D flat major 7. And now 2-5-1 in B. So we have 2, we have 5, and we have 1. Okay? And again, as you're playing this, don't just play the pattern. Think of the names of the chords. C sharp minor 7, F sharp 7, B major 7. Okay? 2-5-1, B minor 7, E dominant 7, A major 7. Okay? Now do your 2-5-1 in G. A minor 7, D7, G major 7. Okay? And we continue the pattern. 2, 5, that's a C7, and a 1 is an F major 7. Okay? And then we have 2-5-1 in the key of E flat. So 2, 5, 1. And once you get back to E flat, you are back to where you started. All right, at the very end of this lesson, as a little bonus, I'm going to show you how to play this full exercise using your B-A-B voicing in all 12 keys. But I want to quickly play this exercise with the included backing track. It's a lot of fun. You get to play with a band. And by the way, this lesson comes with 3 downloadable backing tracks at different tempos. Plus, you can download the lesson sheet music on the top left of your screen. And you can change the key of this lesson with the click of one button with our smart sheet music. So I'll put a link to that below, and let's go ahead and play it with the backing track. 2, here we go. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5. And then we bring it to the new keys. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5. You can have fun with the rhythm. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1. All right, as a quick bonus, I'm going to play through the 2, 5, 1s using the B-A-B form through all 12 keys. Here it is. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1. And then from here, we're going to bring it up to our E flat minor 7. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1. And finally, 2, 5, 1. Hey, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the lesson, please let me know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out pianowithjonny.com. We have over 1,000 step-by-step lessons for all playing levels where you'll learn your favorite songs, styles, and how to improvise at the piano. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.